So you're linking to this video because you are likely struggling with constructing solid paragraphs for college level writing. So let's take a look at this lecture that you've been given before, but we'll do a repetition of it so that you understand. So it's called the perfect paragraph model, and it's a way for understanding exactly how to write a perfect paragraph. So first off, let's take a look at a bad paragraph. Technology harms people's ability to communicate. In today's society, with how much time everyone spends texting instead of talking, this harms the way people connect with others. People spend so much time with technology that they don't talk to one another anymore. Technology is part of the problem why people have trouble communicating. Social media and technology is inhibiting people from getting across to each other. What's wrong with this? Well, we have mostly a ton of redundancy. The same ideas just repeat over and over and over again. And the last thing you want in your writing is redundancy. You want to be making an argument and you want to be proving that with evidence, right? Organization, argument, evidence are the three pillars of academic writing. And this is really poorly organized, doesn't make much of an argument. So how do we correct something like this? Well, one way to avoid redundancy, perhaps the best way to avoid redundancy, is to focus on writing strong paragraphs. And in a strong paragraph, almost every sentence has a function. And so you can almost sort of think of this like a math formula, that this plus this plus this plus this equals this. And in this case, a strong topic sentence that makes an argument, then an extension of the argument, then your evidence, then the application of the evidence, then the transition. You add those all together in that order and you get a perfect paragraph. So let's take a look at what each of those things looks like. First is the topic sentence. What do you do there? This should be approximately one sentence long. That's it, one quick, concise sentence. And that first sentence makes an argument, a claim, it states a position, a problem, an objective, or a solution. Now the next sentences, which can be one or two sentences, is you extend the argument. You talk about it a little bit. You don't bring in a quote or evidence yet. You never want to quote in the second sentence of a paragraph. You need to discuss the argument a little bit more before you bring in your evidence. So you're going to elaborate on the argument, the claim, the position, the problem, the objective, or solution that you mentioned in the topic sentence. So it's an extension of it. You might give an example of it from everyday life or something like that, but you don't just go into a quote. Now, when you get to the middle part of the paragraph, you're going to give evidence, and your evidence is a quote. For the purposes of this class, it should almost always be a quote, perhaps a statistic, but usually a quote. And you want that to be 3, maybe 4 lines of text. So instead of thinking about this in sentences, you think of it in lines of text. If you go over 4, you're going to receive a significant point deduction. So don't go over that. And what you do with evidence is you obviously want to provide evidence that corroborates your argument, your claim, your position, your problem, your objective, or your solution. So if you're making an argument if the topic sentence is about maybe the way technology harms education, you better find a quote that has to do with the way technology harms education, right? You can't just kind of pull one out that has nothing to do with your argument. But you need to have that evidence. That's the third part of a perfect paragraph. Finally, you have this application of your evidence, and you kind of need to explain how the evidence supports the argument that you're making. So you put in you're in your own words what this evidence means to the argument that you presented in the topic sentence. And then finally, you transition. You wrap up your argument, your claim, your position, your problem, your objective or solution, and you sort of set up the next paragraph, the next topic sentence, or your next argument. So let's take a look at what each of these looks like, and then we'll read at the end a perfect paragraph. So topic sentence, first sentence, this again should be one sentence. Digital technology is contributing to alarming rates of narcissism. All right, it's a pretty good argument. Second part, right, is going to be the extension of the argument. This should be 1 to 2 sentences. Everywhere one looks today, they can most likely find people updating their statuses, shooting pictures of their gourmet dishes, and taking selfies. People are constantly posting on their social media platforms in order to garner attention from their so-called friends and followers. All right, that's a good extension of the argument. So we go back. What am I looking for next? Is evidence, 3 lines of text or less. This has gotten so out of hand, one study concludes that the incidence of narcissistic personality disorder is nearly 3 times as high for people in their 20s as for the generation that's now 65 or older. And you can see the quote ends, and we have a properly formatted in-text citation or parenthetical citation telling me the author and the page number. Okay, so we had the topic sentence, the extension of the argument. We brought in that evidence from Joel Stein. Let's look at the application of the evidence. In other words, there is data to prove a troubling generational shift in rates of narcissism. That's fine. Let's take a look at the next part is going to be our transition. And the transition. Not only is digital technology leading to higher rates of narcissism, but it is also hurting people's ability to communicate with one another. Now I know that the next paragraph, right, is going to begin with a topic sentence that makes an argument about the way that digital technology is harming communication. Let's take a look at a perfect paragraph now. So this includes the topic extension, the evidence, the application of the evidence, and the transition. Digital technology is contributing to alarming rates of narcissism. Everywhere one looks today, they can most likely find people updating their statuses, shooting pictures of their gourmet dishes, and taking selfies. People are constantly posting on their social media platforms in order to garner attention from their so-called friends and followers. This has gotten so out of hand, one study concludes that the incidence of narcissistic personality disorder is nearly 3 times as high for people in their 20s as for the generation that's now 65 or older. In other words, there is data to prove a troubling generational shift in rates of narcissism. Not only is digital technology leading to higher rates of narcissism, but it is also hurting people's ability to communicate with one another. So that is a perfect paragraph. You don't have to write them that way, but that's one of the best ways to write them and also avoid repetition and redundancy to make sure that every sentence is doing something. If you notice this, it is. Every single sentence is building on one another to make the argument so that by the time a reader gets to the bottom of this paragraph, they're like, wow, technology really is making humans more narcissistic. And if you can do that and you can prove your argument through organization and a lack of redundancy, then you are doing your job. So after watching this video, I hope you have a better idea of how to write a perfect paragraph. Definitely paragraph construction is something you want to work on future papers. If you need any help with it and it's still unclear, please let me know and we can find other ways to improve so that you can avoid writing poorly constructed paragraphs in future papers.